I want to bring up the next topic, which is about your optimism. And you have a great speech about, named Beautiful Numbers. And I agree with you and your opinions about democracy, the quality of life, and the media, which bring us the news every second, mostly negative ones, of course, and misleads our minds that makes us think that the world is completely messed up. And right now is the most dangerous and horrible times to live. Probably you have already talked about two things with your colleagues and with your friends, which is not very optimistic. First, there is still a war going on in Europe between Russia and Ukraine, which causes a feeling of hopelessness and instability in most people, especially in Georgians. And the second one is probably the most popular theme after the war. I mean AI. Everybody is talking about AI, and there's a very dystopian visions by great thinkers also. As I think it's a very dangerous. So, what do you think about this topic in general, and also graphic design relation on this kind of modern technological revolution?
Well, on the first part of the question, yes, we are working on this since a long time now, on this whole theme of beautiful numbers. We're actually opening an exhibition in this Friday, this week in New York, with in this direction. And the overall idea of this work is that if you look at the world from a short-term perspective, almost everything looks bad. And very clearly, if you look at it, right now in Europe with the war going on, with the energy problem, absolutely everything looks bad. If you look at the same area, exactly the same world from a long-term perspective, most things look completely different. They look very, very good. And, it's, I know that if you have, I would say, if you have bombs falling on you, you might not give a shit that if you look at the world from a 200, 300 year point of view, it turns out that there are many fewer wars now than there used to be in the past. You probably don't care. In general, I still find it helpful to look at the world from a long-term perspective, because it actually turns out that we have achieved already quite a lot, and that it is actually better in most cases to be alive now than it is to be alive 200 years ago, than it is to be alive 400 years ago. Meaning, I can tell you that in Europe 200 years ago, 90% of all Europeans lived in extreme poverty. 90%. So this clearly has completely changed. Even in the poorest country in Europe right now, there is not 90% of extreme poverty. And extreme poverty is a declination of the United Nations. I think it's if you have to live under $1 a day. So, and the same is true for health. The same is true for longevity. The same is true for literacy and many, many, many other areas that are important to us as humans. When it comes to AI, I've always been a terrible forecaster, and my guess would be that there will be many problems with it that we can't even foresee already. My guess is that in the next decade or so, we will have many, many problems that come out of AI, and that we will have to take care of, that we have to legislate, that we have to discover, oh, this is actually terrible. Let's do something that this terribleness is mitigated. I think that is the case for almost any new technology that we discover. Ultimately, because I've been looking at the world from a long-term perspective, I think we as humans are surprisingly flexible. And I now believe we are much more flexible than I used to think when I was 20 years old. And that we will be able to overcome these bad side effects to ultimately use AI in a overall more positive than negative manner. Just as we've done it with other tools. You know, if you, with the event of a hammer, which now we've had for thousands and thousands of years, it turned out that overall we used that hammer more often to build a house than we used it to kill, to bash the head in of a fellow citizen. And I think it will be similar with AI.